Well, hello and welcome to Conversations and the KATV YouTube page. I'm Chris May. Make sure to like and subscribe and look for regular content here on the KATV page. Our guest on this debut episode of Conversations is none other than the newest member of the City Board of Directors here in Little Rock, Virgil Miller. Virgil, thanks so much for being here. Very excited to have a chance to talk to you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for inviting me. And I didn't know I was the very first guest you'd have on Conversations.
Here you are. We are debuting.
All right, then.
Well, it's great to have you.
Do it.
If you had the power to snap your fingers and solve one problem here in the city of Little Rock, what would it be?
Equity. Equity for the entire community, equity for those areas that are low and moderate income, those areas that have not been invested in like other areas of our city, and those areas that have been disinvested in. And so one wish, it's a big wish, but it would be equity for the whole city.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I know that one of the real foundational issues that we're facing right now in our city is public safety. Obviously, 64 homicides in Little Rock last year, way too many. But I'm wondering how much you think when it comes to people's perceptions of what's happening in Little Rock, how much are they colored by what's happening really around the country where you see rising rates of violent crime?
Well, Little Rock is not alone. As a matter of fact, in one of my duties in trying to understand this whole problem of gun violence and uptick in gun violence, I listened to a press conference by the mayor of Houston last week. Chris, it sounded like he was talking about Little Rock. Yeah. Now, certainly on a much larger scale, but they have those same issues too. And so we are a gun-loving country. I was getting ready to say gun-loving state, but we're a gun-loving country. And so when you talk about gun violence and proliferation of gun violence, it's kind of built into, sort of baked into our culture. And we got to find a way to address illegal guns. I'm not talking about people's Second Amendment rights to carry guns. I'm talking about those guns that are illegal, those guns who've been turned into sort of machine guns, those type things we have to address.
I know the board just declared a public health emergency here in Little Rock to deal with violent crime and with shootings in particular. What are your hopes for that move? What do you hope that will accomplish?
I hope that we can get this holistic approach because, again, we know that public safety is number one on everyone's mind. It is, again, perception is reality. And we are perceived to have a problem here in our city. And certainly those who are affected by it, it's not a perception, it's real. And so when you read these type things, you get a little concerned about that. And so how do we attack that? Well, one of the ways we attack it is that we are going to lift overtime, the budgetary constraints for overtime over the next 30 days for our police officers. We may not have enough police officers at this point, but we're graduating police officers out of our cadet school. But the police officers that we have, with this for the next 30 days, they'll spend more time in the streets. We know that's not a long-term solution. The other thing that we have to do is beef up our prevention, intervention, and treatment programs to the point where they are effective. We've always been trying to beef up these programs, and maybe there's something outside the box, Chris, that we need to do. Maybe help them administratively, because you can be a great program person, but if you don't have the administrative capabilities and you're dealing with government money, HUD money, city funds, they want to have an accountability about it. And so maybe there's some kind of way that maybe we can stand up some independent accounting firms to work with smaller nonprofits. There are different things that we need to do, but we need to do something.
Yeah. We're talking today exactly 16 weeks after you were sworn into office. And you said then that Ward 1 is part of a jigsaw puzzle. The city of Little Rock is the whole puzzle. And you said you need all pieces in place because that's how city government works. I'm wondering, now that you've had these many weeks on the job, if you still feel that way, or are you maybe more inclined to want to go ahead and push the interest of your ward maybe ahead of the pack?
That's a good question. Let me pause for a second. But I do think that Ward 1 has a unique set of challenges. And certainly we have to address those. One of the areas of Ward 1 that has not gotten as much attention as some other areas of Ward 1 is the area south of Roosevelt, the south end area. And so I think we really have to push that. I know we've done some things there with our water park and with some improvements to the parks there, but infrastructure, Chris, is a big deal. And the fabric of any community, the houses that are there, the people that have lived there, the legacy, the history that that community has. Miss Bates lives south of Roosevelt. And so there's a history in that community that we probably have taken for granted and that we probably need to focus in more on. We're still part of a jigsaw puzzle. We still have to have that. The whole city has to work together. But I've learned more and more about areas of Ward 1 that I have not been in as much as other areas. And those areas really need attention.
Your career in banking, now with Our Best Bank, you've spent much of your life's work in community development and community reinvestment, things like that. I imagine coming into the board that you had some ready-made plans and some ready-made ideas to deal with some of the issues that your ward is facing. What are the keys in your mind to kind of realizing some of those plans and ideas that you may have? And are you finding people being receptive to your ideas on the city board?
Well, coming onto the city board, you learn a lot. And what I've learned is that there's some seasoned directors there that have been there for a number of years. They know how to get things to work that I'm trying to get caught up on, Chris, and I'm learning those things. But there's certainly, I have knowledge about how to organize communities. I have knowledge about public finance. I have knowledge about government programs. And once I know how to maneuver through all of the departments and learn what department does what, I'm still learning. I don't know how much longer I can say that. I've passed my 90-day probation period. January 18th was 90 days for me. And so that's part of it, just learning how this complex thing works. City government is pretty complex.
Right, it is. It's difficult and challenging. I know another issue that's been debated on the board recently is this idea of food deserts in our city. Do you find that your constituents in Ward 1 have concerns about their ability to access high-quality, nutritious food in Little Rock?
They absolutely do. We absolutely have areas that are food deserts. And what I mean by food deserts, you can ask me and I'll give you a definition. I can ask you and you'll give me a definition. We need one definition of what a food desert is, and then we can attack the program, the problem. And that's why I believe it's so important that we step back for a second, get all the information that people can agree on, and then attack this problem from that standpoint. There are things we can do, community gardens we can do, convenience stores, or even these dollar family stores that are in the communities now. Maybe they can start selling fresh fruits and vegetables. Maybe there's some things that we can do. But again, we want to make sure that we keep what we have. I mean, one of the worst things that could happen is that we lose a grocery store or two in Ward 1. And that's one thing we have to concentrate on. At the same time that we begin to address those areas that are food deserts, let's not lose the grocery stores and things that we have now. And so it has to be a two-pronged approach.
These are such big issues that we're talking about and that we're dealing with when you're talking about things like equity, public safety, public health. How well equipped do you think city government is to address these things and actually move the ball forward to make people's lives better?
I think we are well equipped because we have the knowledge. We have the knowledge now. We just have to get everybody on the same page. Quite frankly, if you look at the city board meeting, you wonder, boy, there seems to be a lot of tension there. There seems to be a lot of disagreement going on there. One thing I can tell you, Chris, and I want the audience that listens to this to know, I believe everybody, the city board members and the mayor, want what's best for the city. We may have some different ideas about how to get there, and maybe that's where you see some of that disagreement popping up and some of that passion coming out of board members and the mayor. But we all want the same thing. Now, if we want the same thing, it makes sense to me that we ought to be able to get there. We have knowledgeable people, people that have been in this game a long time. We have resources, and certainly we have even more resources with the American Rescue Plan money. We're going to receive another $18+ million this year. We received $18+ million last year from the American Rescue Plan. So let's be smart about how we deploy that money.
Do you need more buy-in from the private sector?
We can always use more buy-in from the private sector, and we've had that a lot. We have good corporate citizens in this market who give, who support the city. No corporation, no business wants to be in a community that's not growing. And if you have unchecked public safety, if you have rise in crime, if you have homeless problems, if you have other social issues, you're not going to be able to attract new business. You're not going to be able to grow the businesses that you have in your community. So it is everyone's interest. It is in everyone's best interest to make sure that these issues are addressed. And I think the corporate sector and the private sector understand that. So you'll see them standing up programs like United Ways and programs that deal with arts and culture, but also programs that deal with prevention, intervention, and treatment.
During this recent ice storm we had, I know that in a hurry, the Dunbar Community Center was set up as an overnight warming center, which is something we typically haven't had in Little Rock, these overnight centers. That seemed to be kind of a good example of government responding quickly to a problem that the people were facing.
And I'm glad. I'm proud that that the city did that. Dunbar Community Center is about 3 blocks from my house, and I'm proud of that. But one of the other things that I think we have to address is that a couple of weeks ago, I went down to Dunbar on a Saturday to meet with the Dunbar Neighborhood Association president, Miss Angel Burt, and she walked me for 2 hours around that neighborhood. But one thing I noticed, Chris, it was 2 o'clock and the Dunbar Community Center was not open. I believe that we really need to concentrate and come up with ideas to have facilities that we own open to our youth. Because if that community center was open, I can only imagine that there would have been activity in there. I can only imagine that there would have been youth in there. I can only imagine that there would be things going on in there that was productive. And so why wasn't the community center open? Is it a matter of budgetary restraint? Is it a problem of not having enough personnel? Whatever it is, those are the type of things I think we need to take a look at. Because in my mind, that center needs to be open, if at all possible, on a Saturday at 2 o'clock.
No doubt. What do you need more of at City Hall? What do you need less of at City Hall?
You know, a question was asked of our police chief a couple of meetings ago, a board meeting. One of the directors asked the police chief, "What do you need from us, chief? Tell me one thing that you need from us." And the chief thought about it for a second and he said, "Solidarity." I need for you guys to be solidly behind the programs that we are pushing out and programs that you come up with. And again, with a 2.5-hour meeting at the time he had said that, we need to be more in lockstep.
It's rare to find a 68-year-old who is entering government for the first time, as you did back a few months ago.
I'm 69 now.
69 now.
Yes.
All right. The calendar has turned. You said at the time that a sense of service, that there was a sense of service that you had run away from for years and years. And now that you've stopped running from that and embraced it, are you enjoying it? Is it worth your time and effort? And do you have any other aspirations for higher offices, either in the city or the state?
Well, you know, I said back in 2003, I did a high profile for the Democrat Gazette, and one of the questions in that little box that they have for you was one thing you said you'd never do. I said I'd never run for public office. You can have plans, but God makes your decisions.
Sure.
I have been equipped with skills from my knowledge of banking. I have been equipped with skills from my knowledge of working on boards and commissions. Our family moved from Berkeley, California to rural Arkansas, southeast Pulaski County. I saw discrimination practice on whites when I was in Berkeley, and then when I moved here, I saw it practice on me. And so I believe I have these skills that make me a person that can mediate, can try to bring people together, to try to bring consensus. I believe that's what this board needs. I believe that's what all our programs need. I'm enjoying it. I like it. At this point, I'm new, so everybody that calls me, I return their phone calls. Mm-hmm. Every email I get, I respond to it. Some of my fellow board members said, he's new. Let's see what happens after a few months. But I enjoy it because I think I can make a difference.
Any thoughts of running for other offices at any point?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I've said that before. Chris, I've said that before.
But you never say no.
But you never say never because you have plans, but God makes your decisions. I have no plans to run for another office.
Well, thank you for returning my email and being a part of this. Virgil Miller, great to see you.
All right.
Enjoyed the conversation.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks so much. And that is it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Again, make sure to like and subscribe to the page and join us for our next conversation.